"You're not what we need anymore," said Nolan, the new CEO, without looking up. 14 years gone in 11 words. He didn't know the servers he relied on. Still listened to me first. "My name's Derek Lawson. I'm 45, born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I've been in IT since the dial-up days. I didn't learn computers in a classroom. I learned by fixing what everyone else broke. I started at Stratus Point Solutions back when it was just 25 of us packed into a co-working space above a frozen yogurt shop. The founder, Mitch, was a visionary but didn't know a LAN cable from a shoelace. I kept the systems alive with duct tape and a prayer, no job description, no limits. I was tech support, systems architect, cybersecurity lead, and occasionally the guy who fixed the Wi-Fi by kicking the router. They called me the Ghost, not because I was quiet, but because I was everywhere, all the time. When we hit Series B funding, they moved us into a real office and handed out titles. I became Director of Infrastructure. Still didn't mean much to me. I was too busy building the thing from the inside. I was the guy who made sure our data backups actually worked. The one who patched the zero-day exploits before the C-suite got the email warning about them. I wrote half the custom automation that kept our cloud instances from exploding every Friday night. Missed birthdays, holidays. I once left my dad's retirement party because the billing system went down on the 28th. Becky, my wife at the time, used to joke that I was married to the servers. She stopped joking when she left, but I stayed. 14 years. Through acquisitions, pivots, rebrands, layoffs, I was the constant. They went from pitching clients out of cafes to onboarding Fortune 500s, and the infrastructure never buckled, because I wouldn't let it. Then Mitch stepped down, and Nolan came in. All designer suits and disruption talk, kept saying words like lean, fast, fresh blood. At first, I didn't blink. CEOs change. But then he brought in Brad, some kid from his MBA program as head of IT strategy, a guy who didn't know what SSH stood for but gave long speeches on user flow. Meetings changed. Conversations moved to Slack channels I wasn't invited to. The air felt different, but I didn't say a word. Because when you've built the skeleton of a company, you don't flinch when it sheds skin. You watch. You wait. Because sooner or later, the system always talks back. Back in the early days, Stratus Point didn't have funding. What it had was chaos. Mitch would promise things to clients that didn't exist yet, then turn to me and ask, "Can we make that happen by Friday?" And somehow, we always did. I wrote custom scripts that saved us tens of thousands in manual work, built a secure architecture on open source tools when we couldn't afford licensing. When AWS crashed in 2015 and half the internet went down, our servers didn't even blink. Why? Because I'd already mirrored critical systems across zones, quietly, just in case. Every win they celebrated in public had my fingerprints underneath. But I didn't care about credit. I cared that it worked. We grew fast. Went from 20 clients to 200 in under a year. I trained junior devs, stayed late to mentor interns, even handled client calls when sales dropped the ball. And through it all, I kept the system alive. It wasn't a job. It was mine. The shift didn't come with a bang. It came with calendar invites I never received. One day, Brad presented a new infrastructure roadmap. Diagrams I didn't recognize. Tools I'd advised against years ago. He was calling it a total modernization. What he didn't mention? Half of it wouldn't scale. The other half didn't even comply with our security protocols. I raised a hand in the meeting. Brad smiled and said, "Thanks, Derek. We'll take it from here." After that, I stopped getting looped in. My team started reporting to Brad's interns who couldn't debug a shell script without Googling it. They brought in a consulting firm to evaluate legacy processes. One of their analysts asked me what a cron job was. Another mistook the production database for staging and almost wiped it. I stopped trying to correct them because I saw the writing on the wall. Then came the final blow. A junior admin pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Did you know they're rewriting all your documentation, stripping your name from it? That's when I knew. It wasn't just replacement. It was erasure. But they didn't understand something critical. They could delete my name from the docs. But they couldn't replace what I'd built, because they didn't even know where the bones were buried. 2 weeks later, they took away my admin privileges. No warning. Just an auto email. Access level adjusted per internal policy. Didn't say a word. Because what they didn't know was that I'd already built a shadow dashboard years ago. Not to spy, just to monitor. To keep things stable when vendors flaked or systems glitched. The system still pinged me every time a pipeline failed. And lately, it was pinging a lot. Brad's new structure was already leaking. A deploy froze mid-process. A payment batch duplicated charges. A client portal went dark for 6 hours. No one looped me in. I watched. I archived. I documented. And the interns? They started calling. Quietly. Off the record. Derek, do you remember how the backup scheduler was set up? Do you have access to the old rollback scripts? Please. Don't tell Brad I called. That's when I knew the collapse had started, and I hadn't lifted a finger. Yet. The message came on a Tuesday night. Subject: Let's talk. Confidential. It was from Ari Jennings, CTO at Nova Forge, a fast-growing SaaS competitor we'd quietly mocked for years. But unlike Stratus Point, they were scaling clean, fast, and with fewer outages. Ari had heard about me from a former intern now working under him. Word is, you're the guy who kept Stratus Point standing while everyone else played musical. Cheers, he wrote. We'd like to offer you something permanent. No politics, just impact. I didn't respond right away, because I wasn't done watching Stratus Point bleed. That same week, Brad sent out a company-wide Slack post. Let's celebrate 99.9% uptime this quarter. Funny. I'd seen the real logs. We were closer to 97%, and 2 clients had already issued written complaints. The dashboard pinged me again. Billing job failure. 1,482 duplicate charges processed. Then another. Unauthorized login attempt. Deprecated. Admin script triggered. That last one? It was Brad, trying to access a system I'd written 3 years ago and never documented externally. I sat back and smiled. Then I replied to Ari. We met for coffee. No suits. Just code talk. He didn't ask for a resume. He asked for war stories. By the end of the meeting, he slid a folder across the table. CTO. Systems Strategy. Fully remote. Your call. I took the weekend. On Monday morning, I sent my resignation. 1 line. Effective immediately. You won't need a handoff. You've already replaced me. I didn't CC Nolan. Didn't write a farewell post. They found. Out I left when the first overnight backup failed. When they couldn't access the fallback environment. When the billing system crashed mid-cycle. Because those systems, they weren't broken. They were waiting. And when I walked away, I took one thing with me, the map. Within 48 hours of my resignation, Stratus Point looked like a burning data center. Clients were calling support non-stop. The billing team had no access to previous records. 2 senior engineers quit. One of them messaged me privately. It's a circus in here. No one knows who owns what anymore. The system I built had redundancy, yes, but only if you knew how to use it. Brad didn't. He tried restoring backups from the wrong region. He deleted half the environment configs trying to start fresh. Then he tried contacting me through a third-party recruiter. Message was simple. Could we contract you short-term just to stabilize things? I didn't reply. Then came the legal threat. A cold email from their internal counsel. There's suspicion of intentional sabotage. We may pursue action. They forgot one thing. I had logged everything. Every change. Every approval. Every Slack thread where Brad overrode my warnings. I forwarded it all to myself months ago. Then I wrote one email, to whom it may concern. No system was damaged, no credentials retained. All failures stem from systems operated by individuals who rejected guidance. Attached are logs confirming full compliance with internal protocols at time of exit. Never heard back, but I did see the news. Stratus Point's largest client pulled their contract, publicly. And a week later, a tech blog. Headline: Inside the quiet collapse of a startup that grew too fast. They blamed market conditions, staff turnover, infrastructure fatigue, but anyone who had been watching closely, they knew. Stratus Point didn't collapse. It simply lost the only person who ever understood how it all fit together. A month after, I got an unexpected LinkedIn message. It was from Laura Cheng, Stratus Point's former HR director. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year. Need to clear my conscience, she wrote, then sent me a zip file. Inside, screenshots, emails, meeting notes, dated 2 months before I was let go. One thread stood out. Subject: Legacy Phase-Out Strategy. Brad had written, "He's too embedded. Too many systems point to him. If we want real autonomy, we need to phase him out quietly." Nolan replied, "Agreed. No drama. Just shift access slowly and reroute key ops. If he pushes back, we frame it as streamlining." They'd planned it. Not just the demotion, the erasure. They weren't trying to modernize. They were trying to take full credit for things they didn't even understand. They didn't just fire me. They tried to rewrite history. Another doc showed Brad suggesting a rebranding of our internal tools, stripping my names from every line of config. The same tools that kept the entire billing structure alive for 5 years. They called it decoupling. I called it cowardice. The sick part, they almost pulled it off. If I had reacted, lashed out, made noise, fought back, they could have painted me as bitter, outdated, disruptive. But I didn't. I watched, and in that silence, I let the truth stack itself. Laura's final message hit the hardest. I left because I saw what they did to you. I didn't want to be part of that machine anymore. For the first time, I felt it. Not rage, not pride, just clarity. This was never about one job. It was about power and what people will do to keep it. Even if they have to bury the person who built their throne, but the grave they dug, they forgot one thing. I was never dead. I was just documenting. At Nova Forge, things moved differently. No fluff, no showmanship, just builders. Ari gave me a blank slate, no org chart, no red tape. "Design the system you wish you had," he said. So I did. Day 1, I rewrote the infrastructure map from scratch. Day 3, I implemented a triple redundant backup flow that ran cleaner than anything I'd ever seen at Stratus Point. By week 2, I had a team of 5, handpicked. No resumes, just results. They didn't ask where I came from. They asked how I'd survived it. I taught them not just code, but caution, how to log everything, how to protect the system from people, not just from bugs. I didn't need credit, but I got something better. Quiet respect. At first I still checked my old dashboards out of habit. Stratus Point was bleeding clients. Nolan had stepped down to explore other ventures. Brad? Fired, publicly. Turns out one of his interns leaked documents confirming he'd falsified uptime metrics for 2 straight quarters. Poetic, really. The same interns they trusted over me, they were the ones who took them down. Meanwhile, I launched a mentorship track inside Nova Forge. No formal program, just an open calendar. Anyone who wanted to learn the deep layers, I taught them, even if they didn't need it yet. One night, Ari and I were walking out after a long strategy session. He looked over and said, "You don't build like a CTO. You build like a guy who's been through fire." I nodded, because I had. What I was building now wasn't just a system. It was a shield, for people like me, for anyone who's ever been erased quietly. and rebuilt louder. 6 months in, Ari called me into his office. No slides, no pitch, just a whiteboard and a marker. "We're acquiring 2 companies," he said. "One's got raw talent, the other, legacy infrastructure that's hanging by a thread." He looked me dead in the eye. "I want you to run the integration." I didn't flinch, but I didn't say yes either. "What's the catch?" I asked. "No catch," he said. "But I won't sugarcoat it. One of the teams is made up of ex-Stratus Point staff. They don't know you're here." I exhaled slowly, not out of fear, out of calculation. He handed me a file. At the top, name Jason Rowe, Stratus Point's former compliance officer. The same guy who once told me, "We're moving past legacy roles like yours." I closed the folder. "All right," I said. "I'll do it. But I'll do it my way." Ari smiled. "That's the only reason I asked you." So I took the lead, set the culture, wrote the handbook, defined the rules of engagement. And when I walked into that integration kickoff, Jason did a double take. Didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Because there's something unsettling about realizing the guy you erased now runs the room. I didn't rub it in. Didn't remind him what he said. I let the silence stretch. Then I clicked the first slide. "This system doesn't care how long you've been here," I said. "It only listens to those who build it right." From that day on, no one questioned who was in charge. Not because I demanded it, but because they all remembered what happens when you ignore the foundation. And this time, the foundation, it had my name burned into the concrete. The new NovaForge satellite office. It just happened to be in the same building where Stratus Point used to lease 2 floors. I didn't ask for that, but I didn't turn it down either. First day in, I walked past the old elevator I used to fix, with a paperclip, past the glass doors where Nolan once sat like a king. Now, vacant, lights off, ghost town. I took the stairs. The receptionist at our new floor asked if I wanted a badge printed. I said no. "I don't need a badge." I smiled. "I helped design the access system." Midday, I walked through the shared kitchen space. Ran into Jonas, one of the former engineers who stayed on through the acquisition. He did a double take. "Didn't think I'd see you back here," he said. I shrugged. "Didn't think I'd want to come back." Then I paused, looked around. But now I realize I'm not really back. I'm just higher up. I didn't mean floor-wise, I meant alignment, control, respect, the kind that doesn't come from titles, but from surviving the storm without ever raising your voice. These days, I don't log every hour. I don't chase credit. And I sure as hell don't let politics near my systems. I spend mornings teaching junior devs how to think before they code. Not just the what, but the why. We built an internal academy. No buzzwords, no lectures, just old war stories, command lines, and live fire exercises. I tell them, don't build for applause. Build so it won't break. Some listen, some don't. But they all learn, eventually. I mentor one kid, Reese, every Friday. Smart, quiet, sharp as hell. Reminds me of me. Before the fire, he asked me last week, "Why do you still show up? You've already made it." I looked him dead in the eye, because no one showed up for me when it counted. So now I do, for you. That's legacy. Revenge doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it walks back into the same room, quiet, unshaken, and builds something so unbreakable that no one ever dares to erase it again.